Let's go live. Let's do this. Let's get going. Time to go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to 101. I'm here, Paulo, with Gary. Tonight, we're going to talk about Edu. The news has shocked Arsenal. The Arsenal world right now is in shock. And I don't know why I've got this going on because I do try to put my phones on silence, but forgive me because I do have a day job. And so that's what we're going to talk about, guys. We're going to get feedback from you lot in terms of what your thoughts are. And me and Gary are just going to really run through past, present, and future. But before we go with that, let's just give our thoughts on the whole thing first, and then we'll dive into it. For me, Gary, I think this could be something of a David Dean situation. When David Dean came in, he brought all those wonderful players, Vieira, Henry, and it just set a precedent for the team being ultra competitive. And then with the drop of a hat, there was stuff going on with the ownership, and David Dean was just like, all right, this is enough, I'm out of here. And it was a little bit of a pressure for them to go in a different direction and really not back Arsene Wenger in what he wanted to do. And the rest is history with Ivan Gazidis. So for me, this could be the beginning of something bad because of all the influence he's had building a team with Arteta. Hold on a second. Or he could move on to something good where we get somebody who can get more than just Brazilian players and is able to tap into the real quality of what European players have been able to get their hands on. And not just saying that he only gets Brazilian players, because Odegaard is a prime example of where they've gone over and above a Call of Duty. But, who knows? We could have ended up with a Nico Williams. We could have ended up with an Mbappe. And that really depends on who you've got in at the spot. So for me, it's a mixed bag. But I could see danger warning signs. I could see red flags. And I could also see something where the team's got a chance to prove and move on to something better. So what's your overall thoughts of this happening?
Well, obviously, when the news broke earlier, it was quite a shocking development. It's something that I don't think any Arsenal fan expected. Edu and Arteta seem to have a really good working relationship. Obviously, you've read a couple of stories about how he was passed over for the CEO position. So it's all sort of like up in the air. I think, me personally, I think there's got to be a bit more reasoning behind it. Did he fail to bring in sufficient players this summer? Was his hands tied? Like, obviously, we don't know. There's obviously some constraints around the financial fair play. Letting a couple of players go, was it his choice? Has he sort of like been overruled? Did he feel that he couldn't really give what he needed to give if someone was holding him back? It could be. I don't see it actually being like a David Dean situation. I think obviously at that present time with David Dean, obviously like the club was all up in there, but we seem to have stability with the Cronkies now. So I don't think they would allow that to actually happen. So
the relationship was good. Yeah, the relationship was pretty good. I mean, he came to them and said, look, I want to go, man. I've got an opportunity. I've got to grab it with both hands. Will you let me go? He signed a contract, obviously, but the Cronkiers were honourable enough to break that contract with him and let him go. So there's no compensation in this deal whatsoever.
Well, see, I think like obviously they must have come out of the blue, but they must have a fair idea of where they want to go with the next appointment. Somewhere in the thinking from when Edu's told them, because I'm assuming he didn't just tell them today. I can't see it being like 7:00 this morning. He's on the phone to Josh.
Oh no! I'm going to go. From what I've been told, this was in the last 72 hours. But it's so in the last his mind for a while.
Yeah. So in the last 72 hours, he's obviously made his feelings clear, and they were obviously. The Cronkies are no fools when it comes to the businesses that run in the sporting world. So they will have fingers in pies and they'll try and get the best alternative, someone to come and take over the job. I heard Mark Overmars mentioned, obviously former player. So maybe if they try to keep it sort of in-house, like the Edu appointment, I don't know if there's anyone that can actually fill that role.
So let's go into it. Let's dive first into it and see if we can sort of unpack what we've got. So initially, we'll talk about the past, and the past is obviously quite easy. We know Edu, he's Arsenal through and through, which is part of why I'm shocked with this development. You know, how can a guy who loved the club so much just leave at the drop of a hat? In my opinion, loving a club so much and wanting to go somewhere else, the opportunity would be there to go in the summer. You have still got a job to do at Arsenal, and by all accounts, the timing of this after 10 games is what's surprising to me. So, look, he became the technical director in 2019 before being promoted to sporting director in November 2022. So that was only just 2 years ago. 46 years old, so he's in the prime of that in terms of opportunity. He played for Arsenal for 4 years between 2001 2005, won 2 league titles with us, becoming part of the Invincibles as well. Widely credited by everybody with helping to transform the club back into genuine title contenders. And so for me, look, the frustration's been Arsenal's finished the last 2 campaigns runners up to behind Man City, and that's no fault of their own. That's just City here in the middle of a dynasty, and we just haven't been good enough. And quite frankly, no one has been good enough to stop them. What they've done is unheard of, is unprecedented, what Man City have achieved, even with all the 115 charges. And so the present, where we are now, obviously he was key to bringing Odegaard, Ben White, Gabriel, Martinelli, Jesus, Declan Rice. I mean, all of that stuff. This is the team that he's built. And regardless of Arteta being the manager and having to do a job on the pitch and has talked to Edu about players that he wanted, like Declan Rice, it's been Edu's job to go and get them. That's not Arteta's job. And so Edu, some might say he could have done more with Sesko. I don't think he could have. Vlahovic, I don't think he could have. Those guys clearly didn't want to go to Arsenal at the time. Sesko is to be seen. And I think it's been reported now that he's going to go to Nottingham Forest, which will treble his salary. And there's a comment here. Cam has said he's not rich by any standards, and Nketiah was on more than double the wages of Edu. So offering him a triple salary is a big deal, because obviously he's not uber rich. Yeah, I do understand that. But in regards to the setup that we have now, is the setup that's worked, and that's obviously Arteta, that's Edu. We've got Richard Garlick. Richard Garlick's job is to obviously deal with all the contracts. That's what Dick Law used to do. So he's taken up the role. Obviously, it's a dual role Richard Garlick has. So he's the finance guy and he's the managing director. So he's taken Dick Law's job and he's taken Vinay's job. So Richard Garlick is a very important man in the hierarchy of Arsenal. On top of that, while they got rid of all the other guys, they also brought in Tim Lewis. So Tim Lewis is more sort of the legal side, and he's been with the KSA group since 2007. That's since the stadium opened. He's been with Arsenal, as in not Arsenal forte, but the boardroom. He's been working for the board of KSE, and has only been a part of Arsenal since September 2020. So he's the executive vice chair. So we've got Richard Garlick, we've got Tim Lewis, and those are the guys in charge right now. In regards to Edu, I think that he's already got an instant replacement at the club. And that is, let me pull this picture up. Some of you guys already know this. So Gary is talking about Overmars or a replacement. I personally think that they employed his replacement last month. So when you look at James King, we appointed him in, was it September or October? No, it was late September. We appointed him over a month ago as the director of football operations. He previously worked with the professional, the association, the FA, as their general counsel. So he's got a background working with the
It was
football association.
the PFA, weren't it? The Players Union.
Yeah. And so I think that we can either go two ways here. Gary's probably right in terms of they'll look for a replacement, or with what we did with Richard Garlick, where he's taken two roles, I think that they'll probably maybe look at James King to replace him, being that he's got experience at that level. And so, do I agree with that or not? I don't know. I think they should go out and get someone who specifically, specializes in going out and scouting and getting big time players. I don't think that this guy James King would have that experience and knowledge of the ground roots of football around Europe, around South America, and so forth. That's just my personal opinion, but I think that the team will probably look at it. Emerson's joined the chat. What's going on, Emerson? Luca's in the house. Yeah, Luca, I haven't spoken to Luca in a while. Luca says, "You okay? What rumors at Arsenal?" Yeah, that's what we're just talking about, Luca. I think that they're going to look at this guy, which is James King, a person who's been employed at Arsenal last month, helping out with the commercial deals for the legal team. So I think that he might double up as a sporting director as well. So he could be getting a look at. It may not happen, but if it does, remember that you've heard it here first. I think that they could be looking at him to double up in terms of replacing Edu. What's your overall thoughts?
I think, although that's a valid point that you've raised, I personally think that it has to be a football man who has connections all around the globe, because he's worked in the PFA, but that's a totally different role than knowing someone over in South America or someone in Holland or wherever. You got to have someone that's played the game, that knows the ins and outs and can spot a player. So when he goes to look at a player, he's got to agree with the manager. So you need a football man who's played at a fairly high level. My actual pick, and I don't know if we could probably get the guy, but it was the guy that left Borussia Dortmund in 2022, I believe. I think his name is Mark Zorc.
Yeah.
He's obviously brought through like the Jude Bellinghams and all these kind of people at Borussia Dortmund. Was there when they won their couple of league titles. I think he held the job for a fair number of years. So someone like that's respected in football, has a proven background in, finding these young players, bringing them over, closing deals. That's the type of guy that we need to be looking at. And obviously with Mark Overmars, just going back to that point, before Edu got the job, Overmars was rumoured to have it, and he had that little scandal thing, didn't he?
He did.
I don't think that's something that they would revisit. Just thinking about it now, I don't think that's something that they would revisit after what he was accused of. So I think that one be out the window for me.
It would be. Cam says, look on the bright side. At least we can hopefully flag some high-priced deadwood in terms of Zinchenko, Kivior, Jesus. He's just said Moreno. Moreno's just joined. Good to see Lucas still posting videos. So that guy's he does a good Arsenal lifestyle blog. 18 Saints, Santi Cazorla. Yeah. Santi Cazorla, I look, while I want him to be a part of Arsenal's future in some capacity, I don't think that this job as a technical director It's because he's not experienced it. And while some of you lot might say, yeah, but then Edu wasn't experienced when we brought him on, yeah, nor was Arteta, and the whole group came up together. I get that, so I get that point. The difference is, I think here, it's the team are not where we was in 2019, 2020 when we took Edu and Arteta on board. Does that make sense? We were
we've evolved.
We've evolved. We weren't we're Manchester United or Chelsea where they were finishing 8th and they were ailing and couldn't get back into Europe. I think that where we are now challenging for titles is just in a completely different place. So you're going to want to get yourself somebody with some backbone behind it, some knowledge, a scouting background experience where we can dig up all that talent, whether it's in South America, Africa, Europe. You want someone who's got his teeth right into the system. And I don't see James King as being that person. I could be wrong. He could prove me wrong.
I agree. Totally with you.
Garfield saying you were still crying. You know what, Garfield? I got to be honest. It hit me like a truck because after we lost over the weekend, I focused on the Washington and the Skins and ended up having a really great weekend.
Daniels.
Yeah, ended up really having some Arsenal fans were still in tears, but I was so happy over the weekend because my team is 7-2 at the moment. But I try to stay away from all the noise. Arteta out, the blame games, all of that. He says, please take Marcus Rashford. And so I kind of try to look at it with some fresh eyes. And right now, I think we can, both of me and Gary are saying we could either go now and get someone who's experienced, or we can really either go and look at this guy, James King, and see if he's the answer. So, yeah, it's a mixed bag. It's a really mixed bag.
If you think about it, though,
yeah,
we've got literally 4 weeks before the January transfer window opens. It's only about about 6 weeks before the January transfer window opens. So the appointment has to come. You would imagine it would have to be in place a good few weeks before that, because you'd imagine that the list of targets for the January transfer window would already be drawn up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a critical time.
That's a good point. I love it. I love it when he's saying take Marcus Rashford. We were thinking about it over the summer, bro.
Not
Cam
for 60 million.
Cam says power struggle, or he's just seen the power diminished and he's offered a chance. I think, and I'm going to be totally honest there, and this is, I talked to Colin, who works at the training ground today, and he works with Edu. He's been working with Edu for a long time. Emerson knows him as well. He says, I will go for experience over the job. And the feeling behind the whole thing was it was a very sincere request from Edu to the owners that he leave the club and go and seek something elsewhere. And so, in my opinion, look, we know that he's a good friend of the Forest owner, Evangelos Marinkos. So we know that those two are very good friends.
He actually tried to get him previously, didn't he? And offered him, like you said, triple the money. And also, let's not forget that this Forest guy owns 3 or 4 clubs. So Edu's overseeing the whole lot. So there's much more meat on the bone for him, and he may feel it's a better project to get involved with, where he's running so much things, more responsibility. If he's not going to get that at Arsenal, or it's just going to be Arsenal. So maybe that's why. Another reason.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows? I mean, Colin even said to me, Per Mertesacker has wanted that role for the longest time. So they might interview and take a look in-house.
That's a great shout, to be honest. Mertesacker.
Yeah, because we've been told Robert Perez wants to do some more. Mertesacker wants to do some more. These guys have been working with the club for 4 or 5 years now, alongside with Arteta in different stages, and everybody wants a paycheck, a pay rise. Everybody wants to evolve their careers. Everybody wants to step up the ladder. And this, for me, is a natural progression in regards to what it was for Edu when Edu was given the role. So It's going to be interesting to see. I'm going to sit down, wait with bated breath to see where they go with this, because I, as I said, it could either work out really really well, or this thing could go into the belly of the beast. And we've had some really really good stuff from Edu, as I said, William Saliba, Gabriel Odegaard, David Raya, Declan Rice, Trossard, Ben White, Gabriel. We've had some really really nice signings, but then we've had the Nicolas Pepe, we've had the Willian, we've had the can't even remember the David Sanchez. What was the other guy?
David Sanchez,
Mari, Pablo Mari. We've had the Cedric Soares. So it's a little bit of a, you can see early in his tenure, he was trying things and it didn't work.
But ultimately, it wasn't all down to Edu. Ultimately, do you know what I mean? There was Arteta was involved in the hiring of players.
No, not at that time. If you look at Pepe, that was all Raul Sanelli. Nothing to do with Arteta. You know, that was something that was pushed on Lundberg, pushed on Arteta. That was before them guys came in. So I won't blame them for Pepe, but the Willian, the Pablo Mari, the Cedric Soares, that was the first deals they did, and they didn't work out. Let's be fair, none of it worked out. But as I said, the guy was new in his job, just sat down, just started to get going, and you could see as time went on, and he had that incremental success of bringing in finds like Martinelli and Gabriel, who was some of the first business that they done. You could see, Gary, that they were getting better at what they were doing in terms of Edu.
Definitely.
And
it kind of fell apart this summer though, didn't it? Due to the financial fair play and stuff. It kind of we fell short of what we'd previously done. Obviously, we wasn't going to go out and spend 200+ million, but it kind of started okay, and we're all sitting there and we're all thinking, "Oh, look, this is looking good now." And all of a sudden, it fell apart dramatically. That there was that big success goal, you know, and this is something that Arsenal tend to do. They want to, we got this guy, this Apollo Campbell guy. Yeah, let's throw a bid in for him, 70 million. But they know that they can't get you.
Yeah.
But they throw the bid, and it's kind of, it always seems to me something like where you're just trying to appease the fans. You're trying to make the fans believe and buy into it, but there's no real substance in the bid.
Yeah.
So it kind of fell apart. So maybe that's another reason why he feels that he can't take it no further.
Yeah, it's look, I wish him all the best. I think he's done a tremendous job here, and I think considering where he's got us, I wish him all the best. Considering where Nottingham Forest is in the table, that's probably why he took the job straight away, because he wanted to get into January and get the ball rolling, and whether that means he picks up Jesus and Shinchenko, which is what one of the guys here said, Kivior. Yeah, look,
I'll drive them to Forest, man.
18 said, what about the scouting team bringing them back? No, the model, the reason is not just Arsenal who got rid of their scouting team over COVID. Football has changed. It doesn't work that way anymore. Before, you used to have a section of 10 scouts who used to go around Sunday and look at the teenagers and look at other teams and go to other different. But now football has changed. They use a European scouting network, which is a big guild of 50 scouts who works for Seth Mislintat is a part of it. He's one of the directors, and it's a huge, massive network. And basically, what teams do when they want the players is they go to that network, and that network sends them data on players and player types, different ages, experience, and whatever. So that's where the grassroots of European football are changing. It's not really like what it used to be, where you had your scouting team working and employed for the club and paid money and then were said to go. That was a lot of money on their payroll. And since COVID, a lot of teams, especially top teams, they've jettisoned that model, got rid of it, it's gone. And now, the likes of Man United, Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Villa, they're all using this model now of this European guild where you're looking for a type of play in a certain position, and they send you all the data, and they kind of control things from there. So, Lucas said, "Do you think O'Leary is better?"
David, he's talking about David O'Leary.
Oh, David O'Leary
for the job.
Definitely
I
no.
can't see it.
Yeah,
do you
know?
I'm going to put this out there, and I think that
Mark Overmars, good shout.
No. Oh. I think you have named the guy, and I'm going to back this guy. If I was a betting man, which I'm not anymore, but Robert Pires would be an excellent candidate.
Yeah, I think he would.
Respected in world football, must have untold links and know so many people. I think he would be, or him or Per Mertesacker would be, for me, 1 and 2 in the race.
Yeah. And
I'd love to see Pires get the job, to be honest. Overmars is not going to happen because of situations that happened previously. That boat sunk.
So, in your opinion, I mean, we've really discussed the past, present, and the future, but I just want to sort of head off by naming your favorite 3 Edu buys. You know, in your opinion, who was the 3 guys that you think that he brought in, which was just magic?
Well, obviously Odegaard.
Yeah, that's number 1.
That's definitely number 1 on the hit list.
Yeah.
Was he responsible for Saliba?
Yeah. Oh no, Saliba was Mislintat.
Yeah, so
he was responsible for Gabriel.
Yeah, Gabriel.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
So obviously, and David Raya.
You take. All right, we're doing this together. This is an Apollo and Gary list. You wouldn't put Partey in there before Raya.
Difficult one, but I don't know.
It's a tough one because he might be.
But then you got to look at Declan Rice as well, haven't you? What, Declan Rice had a monumental season last year.
Yeah.
But Raya's proved a big influence, hasn't he? So I mean, you could argue about it for ages and ages and not agree. But me being a Ramsdale fan, I've named Raya. You should be pleased. You know, Raya's brought a lot to the team, hasn't he? Like with the goalkeeping, how he comes across and his distribution, and he hasn't. He looked a bit shaky at the beginning, but I think that was a lot to do with the 2 number 1 situations, as Arteta put it at the time, and they was both on edge. And we saw when Ramsdale came back into the team, he was on edge, trying probably that little bit too hard and making mistakes. And when Raya sort of just came into his own, and we saw the difference that he made in the team. So that's for me. I'm going to say Odegaard, Gabriel, and Raya.
So for me, I'm going to go with. It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Emerson's gone for Raya, Rice, and Saliba. Saliba wasn't.
Saliba was Mislintat. Yeah, Saliba was Mislintat. It wasn't Edu. Campbell's gone for Partey, Gabriel, and Odegaard. 18's gone for Odegaard, Rice, and Trossard.
Yeah, Trossard, another great shot. 27 million bargain of the century.
Yeah, missed the Mudryk one because of that. Boy, he dodged the bullet, man. He dodged that 50 caliber bullet. He dodged a massive bullet there, man. Shout out to Social. Social said Edu had to leave through the salary. Yeah, 3 times the salary, much bigger role, bigger title and CV. Yeah, that's kind of what we covered here. I don't think there's anybody that's going to be sad about the fact that he's going on to something bigger. Because they always do, don't they? Remember, the only reason why Sev Mislintat left here is because they promised him a director role. And then when Gazidis left and the new guys were in charge, they said, no, we that was the guy who left. We ain't promised you nothing. And then 48 hours, Sev Mislintat was gone. So, yeah, it's because people move on to other things. So Emerson's decided to go for Raya, Rice, and Odegaard. Yeah. Not a lot of shouts for Thomas Partey. We've got 1 for Partey. So yeah, I think that I'm 50-50 on it. I think they're gonna speak to this guy, James King, see what he's all about. And then I think that they're going to speak to other players, of other personnel, especially the Robert Perez, especially the Mertesacker. I think they're going to speak to a couple of people. What is Mark Overmars doing now, by the way?
I don't think he's been in football since that incident, has he?
Yeah, I'm just checking.
Uh,
it says he's the Dutch football director.
Tony. James King, Tony, was brought in at the back end of September he was something to do in the PFA, the Players Union, legal side of things, according to Apollo.
Yeah.
I remember the appointment. I remember seeing from the PFA. I didn't remember what he was actually doing, but Apollo has a theory that James King may take the role that Edu's vacated, although we're not too sure whether that would be the case because he lacks the necessary football experience. And obviously, to be a director of football, what we're saying is you basically need to have links all over the world. So that's why we're thinking. We've also mentioned.
Gary, I'm going to shut down.
Mertesacker.
I'm going to shut down the Overmars thing because I've just put it in the chat here. Overmars was banned for a year by FIFA for his inappropriate behaviour. So I don't think Arsenal.
That inappropriate behaviour rules him out. He's not getting a job at Arsenal.
Agreed.
Tottenham maybe, but Arsenal never.
It's ethics, bro. It's ethics.
Yeah, go ahead, Eagles. They don't care in Holland about inappropriate behaviour, man. They promote that kind of stuff. Yeah.
It's one of those things, man. Look, man, my issue is I don't want another David Dean situation where we've lost a guy who's built a fantastic team and then everything here is downhill. And look, the saving grace in this, guys, because I could be wrong. The saving grace is you speak to every player who's come in, Moreno, you speak to Declan Rice, you speak to Odegaard, you speak to all these guys, and what's the first thing they say? They don't really talk about Edu, do they? They say Arteta. Yeah, they say I came here because I want to play for Mikel.
Yeah, so Tony's saying that Mertesacker doesn't have the links in world football.
I think he does. I think he's got a good amount of links, but not on that. But then, did Edu when he took the job? Yeah.
Tony said, get the billionaire for Flaminian.
He'll buy the whole team.
He's only worth 10 billion.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
What do you think about Robert Pires, Tone?
Yeah.
Robert Pires is my shout. I back him for the job.
Yeah. That sounds like money in the bank to me, man.
Be interesting to see a list from the bookies to see who would be on the list. Surely that will be around soon enough.
Yeah, we've got some guys having too much fun here. Campbell is saying, where's Raul Sanelli? Raul Sanelli actually just signed for Inter Milan, I believe.
Tony, what's going on, Tony, man? Pires doesn't have the links now. What?
Tony's on one tonight, man. Tony's on another. He's on another one tonight, man. Tony's on the rum tonight, isn't it?
I think you need to stop sparring and drinking rum, Tone.
Yeah, Mertesacker's got really good links with the young players. Yeah, I mean, I've heard nothing but good things about him at the training ground. So and Emerson as well knows a lot of the links and the guys that I know. And he's probably heard the same thing. So I definitely think Mertesacker or Perez would be a definitely good shout in that regard. But this is a shock right now, and I think that they're sitting down. They've got to discuss what's going on here and see if they can fix this, because it definitely.
Here's a name to throw into the hat, Apollo.
What's that?
What about Paolo Maldini?
What's he up to now, Paolo Maldini?
Does he have the links, Tone, Maldini? Lauren
I'm not
Koscielny.
sure. Yeah.
Squadron Mustafi.
No, there's a lot of good names that has come around. This is one of the ones I mentioned earlier on, Santi Cazorla, and that would be the same type of Edu situation where you're new in your role. But as I said, that doesn't work for a team that is title contenders. It worked 5 years ago.
Maldini's just had his contract terminated by AC Milan.
Really?
Yeah. I'm just reading it now. He had his contract terminated by AC Milan.
Right, Emerson, Gary says that it's been terminated, bro. So that is actually, if that's true, that's a good shout. If that's true, then that's a really good shout.
Yes.
And listen, Tony's got that grin on his face. Gary, there's a Tony theme on 101. Yeah, Tony, listen. I have to tell Gary, there's a theme on 101 where Tony turns up with that smile and goes,
Come on, Tony, lay it on us, Tony, lay it on us.
I'm no expert in this area, as you guys are, but I just have my doubts about some of the names that have been mentioned, specifically Mertesacker and Perez, because clearly Mertesacker has been doing work at the junior level. Now, whether he's traveling around the world and making himself known to particular individuals, what I doubt he's been doing is going, like Edu had done before he came to Arsenal, is getting involved in the dealings of buying and selling players in a specific market. So the one thing that I look at with Edu was he had experience. He had done a hell of a lot of business prior to coming to Arsenal. So he knew the world market. He had been involved in deals. I'm not sure Mertesacker or Perez can bring any of that experience to the table. And I think that experience is invaluable.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, agreed.
Cam says, Tony, how long before Edu bids for one of our players? Well, we were talking about that. He can have Shinchenko and Jesus and Kivior. Yeah, he can give us I'm serious. Give us a couple of mil and we can talk. He also says, Raul brought us Saliba. He will always be a legend in my eyes. Hey, listen, man, it wasn't his fault that Pepe didn't work out. Still, Pepe could have been a G here, man. But and he says, I've always believed Edu's first priority was Edu. Ever since he did a dirty on us as a player, despite the club having bent over backwards to help him when he had problems. But this is what I'm saying. It's about your career. If somebody knocked your door who you knew for like 30 years and said, you know what, Tony, Gary, I'll triple your wages, what are you going to say? And you've known them literally all your life. What are you going to do?
Is that what it is about, Apollo? Is that how it panned out, basically?
Yeah,
because
the guy... Sorry, go on.
Because... it's a hard pill to swallow for me because I know this guy is on a shed load of a contract.
Yeah.
You know, his current existing, or as it was up until the end of today, contract at Arsenal was so lucrative. And I'm pretty certain a league title added to that would have just made his worth even greater.
Yeah, but it's not only that, Tony. It's also, don't forget, like the point I mentioned, that the guy from Forest owns 3 or 4 clubs. So Edo's overseeing them all.
But forgive my ignorance. Can you name me those 3 or 4 clubs?
Olympiacos in Greece,
Nottingham
Forest.
Yeah.
Is it Monza in Italy?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's one. Listen, they may not be state of the art and well-renowned clubs, but
this is my issue. You're going to join how can I put this? This is like joining a bunch of corner shops when you work for Harrods.
I agree, but looking at the
A
league
bunch of
table
corner
now.
shops can raise a lot of money because there's lots of them, but they're all still corner shops.
But
Harrods.
I made this point to Gary. That this has happened at the right time, because right now, if you look at the league table, Forest are third, and so this is a perfect time for them to bring someone in who can get them over the line in the January transfer market. This is the reason why I think this is coming together so quickly. It's like, this is not a shot, guys. After 10 games, the only teams that are doing better than Forest is Man City and Liverpool. Yeah, they're above Arsenal right now. Yeah, and they've got bountiful worths of money. And if
Is
you
that
look at
is that
and
due? Is that due in no small reason to the fact they ain't played any of the big boys yet?
well, I think they've. Well, let's have a look and see who they played, because
They played Chelsea. I know that.
yeah,
I
let's have a
said big boys, Gary.
They
right,
beat Liverpool. They beat Liverpool 1-0.
They beat
Okay.
Liverpool 1-0. They beat West Ham 3-0. They beat Leicester 3-1.
You said
Crystal
big
Palace
boys.
they beat 1-0. Let's have a look.
That's about it.
Yeah, that's about it.
Apart from
Yeah.
that, they played all the teams in and around the bottom.
Yeah, so it's early doors, but I think this is probably what's proposed to Edu is like, look how well this team's doing. They're above you at the moment. He's probably said in terms of Arsenal, and the stock of Mikel Arteta, who by the way signed these contracts for 10 million a year. Only Pep Guardiola is getting paid more than he is. Yeah. So Edu's stock is high. Edu built that team.
Yeah, he's definitely got. And as I said, Apollo, look, people will look at formidable managers within teams. Yeah, you look at Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones won a chip, and all of a sudden he's been living off that chip for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are people in sport who have won a the highest level of their sport, and they live off that, and they can walk around and always profess, oh, I'm the special one because I've won it. Edu is yet to do that. And my viewpoint is, imagine if you had seen the project through and seen your team win the league.
Yeah.
Because you could then go to that team and go, well, look, Arsenal have now won the league. They doubled my salary, quadrupled my salary, and now you have to quadruple their salary.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So for me, this looks like more than just, well, I trebled his wages. No, I'm sorry. I get it. The short-term gain seems great. But if I look at the long stretch and I go, look, I'm with a team that can win the league this year, possibly Champions League. Yeah. If I get my stuff together, yeah, and sort out Gyökeres in January, I could be with the team that wins significant trophies at the end of this season, is already in the top 5 of world teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when they offer me a deal, I go to you, who just offered me 3 times, and say, well, actually, Arsenal just offered me a double or nothing deal. You're going to have to come something harder in order to gain my favour.
Yeah, because he was already the technical director.
Sometimes the long stretch works out more. It's like when Michael Jordan signed his deal with Nike. He cut himself short. He could have got a better deal on immediate with Converse, but he went, nah, I want the long run. And it benefited him so much more.
And now everybody's
still
doing
benefiting him to this present day.
There you go.
Everyone's it. Social John says 3 times the salary, they're not just corner shops, it's a global role. It makes his CV look tremendous for his next few jobs. He might come back in a global role as he gains more experience. That's a good point. Cam, you're taking the piss here, bro. Yeah, you're absolutely riding Gary for a donkey right there with that statement.
But listen, that's a good point that or whoever made that point about Gyökeres. Gyökeres, if Gyökeres decides to move in January,
yeah,
he ain't going to a club away even in Europe.
yeah. And we said this before. It's not like he's replacing Havertz. He'll play with Havertz rather than anything
And ultimately,
else.
he would have been looking in the summer and going, who are my suitors?
Yeah, because look, they've got Chris Woods who can't stop scoring. Well, I can't even believe I'm talking about Chris Woods in this capacity. And Cam says, I have a bad feeling like Gary. It's difficult to be successful if there's a break in the chain. That's kind of where me and Gary was opening up the thread. That's why we said this could be another David Dean situation. But if the structure is in place, it's possible to replace those links and can still run well. And that's where all of us are, if I'm honest.
I agree with you, Apollo. I agree with you and Gary on that one. This could be a David Dean type scenario, and it worries me, especially the manner in which the fallout has happened, because it isn't like, oh, I'm gonna leave in at the end of the season. If you say that, then you kind of go, well, okay, there's room to make moves to find your replacement, etc., etc. But when you do something and it falls out of the blue on the day of the deal, you're like, what? And I can't help but think something's gone badly askew.
So guys, let's have a look at the official. Let's have a look at the official statement, guys. This is from Arsenal. It's been on their website for less than an hour. It pretty much popped up just before me and Gary started the podcast. And it says, Edu today has resigned from his position as our sporting director. And remember, guys, when you're under contract, it's very difficult to sort of come out of that contract without compensation. But because he's done so well for the team and he gets on so well with owners, they just allowed him to so-called follow his dream and go and suit up with his mate. So there was another club could have just dragged him through the dirt and said, no, you're not going nowhere. So this is a gentleman's agreement, and we have to understand that. We got to take that as gospel. It says, Edu, our former player and Invincible, rejoined us in the role of technical director July 2019. He progressed through the club and was promoted as sporting director in November 2022, where he oversaw men's, women's, and academy football. We thank Edu for the part he's played in our renewed football strategy and driving the club forward to the values of Arsenal in his heart. And that's why we think Mark Overmars will not be here.
Definitely not.
Edu said this was an incredibly hard decision to make. Arsenal has given me the opportunity to work with so many amazing people and the chance to be a part of something so special in the club's history. It's been a special journey, and I thank Stan, Josh, Tim, Lord Harris for the support they've given me. I loved working with so many great colleagues across our men, women's, and academy teams, especially Mikel, who's become a great friend. Now it's time to pursue a different challenge. Arsenal will always remain in my heart. I wish the club and its supporters only good things and all the best. Our co-chair, Josh Kroenke, added, we respect Edu's decision, and that's the key word there. We respect his decision. Thanks, and thank him for his immense contribution and dedication to drive the club forward. Everybody at the club wishes him well. We are so fond of him and the positive energy he brings to everything and everyone. And then it ends by saying, change and evolution is part of our club. We remain focused on our strategy and winning major trophies. Our succession plan will reflect this continued ambition. So this is the reason why I think their first choice is probably James King. And then they're going to work from there. They're going to work up downwards rather than down upwards, and exhaust that the options they have in the club with the Perez, with Mertesacker. They're going to exhaust all of that by speaking to everybody, and then they're going to probably. But the AC Milan shout, Gary, is a good shout.
My son come up with that. he was over here doing his little bit of homework because Tony weren't available for the stats and stuff.
Yeah, the thing is, D, if you followed the channel through the summer, I was one of the first that reported that Gyökeres actually signed a personal deal with Arsenal, and it was just the release clause that needed to be done. So obviously that deal's not in place because the contract wasn't sorted, but he does love Arsenal and he does want to come to Arsenal, and so that much we know. But it's just, and these are rumors, by the way. I heard in the summer they were going to drop it by 30%. It didn't happen, and last week we heard it again in the media that they're going to drop it to 30% and take less, so 70 million euros, which is a freaking bargain.
Yeah, it wasn't
for a
his
guy
wages.
Who's scoring more goals
than
than
transfer
Haaland.
fee.
Yeah,
it's nothing to do with his wages. It was the transfer fee.
Yeah, that's
which
right.
They was asking 100 million. So you whack 100 million, then the wages all on top. The deal would have come out north of 150 mil.
Yeah, I mean, whichever way you look at it, as Social Join says, Gyökeres or Isak. I mean, personally, I prefer Gyökeres because Isak is just a sick note. Regardless of me and Neomis has been loving him for years. About 3 years ago, me and Neomis says Arsenal should go out and buy Isak. But seeing him now and the amount of games he's missed, what is it? 26 games he's missed since he's joined Newcastle. You can't build the championship on that Smith Rowe type of. You just can't do it, man. And so I for me, if it would be Gyökeres, or just wait till the summer, and if you've got a deal in place for Sesko, get him, bring him in. He's not, as Tony would say, he's not pulling up trees this season, but he's a young talent. He's the youngest out of all of them.
Here's a question. We spoke about Edu's greatest achievements. What are his greatest mistakes?
I said them. Suarez, Pablo Mari, and Willian.
No, I mean players. No, I mean as in terms of players that he hasn't pushed to sign. So I would say Mohamed Kudus.
I mean, there's a lot. There's Vlahovic.
Gyökeres.
Yeah. There's a lot of players. Yeah, and the thing is,
I mean, I've actually got a list of his misses in front of me, which has been kindly sent to me. Like Suarez, as you mentioned, Willian, Fabio Vieira, Kivior, Lukonga, although that's not really a miss. Pablo Mari, Matt Turner, Marquinhos, Runnison, Austin Trusty.
Yeah,
Matt
I'm
Ryan.
a great fan of Semenyo. Social. I'm a great fan of Semenyo. I think he would be an excellent signing for us.
I mean, that Semenya player is one of many great wingers. I always say this,
Kudos from West Ham.
I mean, I always say this to you guys. Wingers are a dime a dozen. There are loads of them. There are absolutely loads of them. I would sell Bukayo Saka if the money comes in over Thomas Partey, because Thomas Partey, I can't find 3 of them in the world.
Yeah, I can't.
I can't find 3 Thomas Parteys, but I can guarantee you I could find you a bag load of players who can do what Saka does very well. And I know he's phenomenal at what he does, but I do believe that you've got more chance of finding a good set of wingers in the world of football than you have a great CDM.
Yeah. They're a rare breed.
Yeah, they are. Okay, guys. We've pretty much covered everything from top to bottom. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to say before we close up?
No, I'm just going to say that since this has all come about, obviously, we think it's 72 hours when he's obviously let the Cronkies know that he's leaving. And judging by the statement that they laid out, I think there is a plan in place. And obviously with the January transfer window fast approaching. I think we'll see action within the next week or two, and there will be a new sporting director in place to take us into the January transfer window. So I don't think it's going to turn out like a David Dean situation. I don't think the Cronkies will let it, after all the hard work and effort that everybody's put in, to let it fall apart at this stage would be criminal. So that's all I've got to say.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Tony, what about you?
I just don't have the intel to make a comment, because I would hope that there is a network that Arsenal are part of where they can just go, all right, next in. You know, it is always got to be next man up. You know, it's a bit like in American football, Apollo. You know, if you lose the head coach, you've always got to be looking around the corner. Who's the next man up?
Yeah, I agree.
You know, you lose a defensive coach. Who's the next man up? You lose a quarterback coach. Who's the next man up? So this is that situation. Who's the next man up? If you're a good organization, you're always keeping an eye on who could be the next man up.
And that's why for me, it wasn't working when Stan Kroenke was, quite frankly, being silent Stan and just wasn't around and wasn't managing his own club. And in 2018, we know what happened. Josh Kroenke said, Dad, a big soccer fan, I want Arsenal. And Stan said, Arsenal's yours. And then he came over here in January 2018. He said, I'm going to sit for 6 months and just sit in the back of the room and keep an eye on everything to see what's working and what's not working. And actually, it wasn't 6 months, it was 9 months, because then in the summer, in September, that's when he was like, bang, all right, these are the changes I'm going to make. Sanelli's gone. Mislintat gone. He's not going to get the director role. I want someone else to have it. Bang, 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 bang. Arteta came in because Arteta did the first interview and they ended up giving it to Emery because they didn't want a manager. They wanted a head coach and they wanted someone who's going to listen and just keep it on the pitch rather than have any outside influences, which is what Arteta wanted, and they didn't give it to him. Josh came in and said, if Arteta wants that, then that's what we're going to give him. And then they brought him in and the rest is history. And and quite frankly, Josh Kroenke has been hands-on with everything. Everything. And the standards here are so high right now. And this is the reason why you're not just picking up chalk and cheese. You're picking up the creme de la creme. They're going to have to need the one among the best technical directors to do the job to recruit for this for football team. And if they don't, then that's going to be the downfall. That's going to be the letdown. If you haven't got someone who's competent in their role, that is what I'm going to be looking for. For me, we are a world power in football right now, in regards to European football, in regards to the Premier League. We're a world power. So we need someone who's essentially going to take us to the next level. Thank you, Edu. Wish you all the best. Let's go and upgrade now. Let's go and see where we are. And let's go and see if we can promote what, as Tony said, one of our own who's learning the ropes, who's also showing substantial emphasis on growing themselves within Arsenal Football Club as well. And if Patrick Guerrero came in and said, I want to speak to you guys because I think I can do a role for you guys, then let's talk to Patrick. Yeah, it's at that stage where I think everything is on the table right now.
Did you say Patrick Vieira?
Yeah, I said if he phones up and says, "Can I come in and speak to you guys about that role that you've got?" I would speak to everybody. I'm not slamming the door on nobody.
You know what? You never mentioned this before, but if you'd have said to me, Patrick Vieira, I would have had a totally different outlook. See now, no, because
you never mentioned it either. You never mentioned it.
Perez and Mertesacker, have never been managers at the top end. Yeah, Patrick Vieira on the other foot. My God, he's got a wealth of experience, and he's worked in some of the biggest clubs in the world.
Yeah,
he's been in at Man City. He's been around the world at big clubs.
America.
Do you know what I mean? So Jeez, I never even thought about it. I mean, I'm looking down my Twitter feed and I'm looking and seeing somebody mention Tixi Begiristain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, he's just
You
left
see
Man
what I
City,
mean?
hasn't he?
Yeah,
But
you see what
he's
I'm
a
saying,
dodgy
though?
guy. He's a dodgy guy. This Tixi guy, because he was at
Arsenal don't do
Barcelona.
dodgy, Gary. Arsenal don't do dodgy.
Okay.
He was
Don't
at
do dodgy.
Barcelona when they had all the corruption charges, and he was at City. They've had all the corruption charges.
Yeah.
Okay, Gary, thank you for that
No,
intel. I never knew.
no smoke, no fire, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're right.
Same
You're
guy,
absolutely right.
corruption.
Okay. How about, so have you talked about Arsene Wenger?
No, but that's a bloody good shout, bro.
I think 5 years ago. Yeah.
No,
but
because you're not asking him to manage the team. You're asking him to use his contacts and his knowledge of the game worldwide to go and do business.
But let's also take that point and think you could put a Vieira, a Pires, or a Mertesacker in the role and have Wenger in the background with the contacts, and it could all work as kind of a duo effort.
Okay.
My shout was Paolo Maldini.
Yeah, I was going to say he's on this list as well. The other name that's on this list that I'm not going to mention some of these names because I just think they're not ready. But Ralph Rangnick?
Yeah, forget him.
Why
Thierry
is that,
Henry.
Gary?
Thierry
No,
Henry.
I really, you know what? I love Thierry. Of course, we love Thierry. But I think we're trying to put a square into a round circle, and it doesn't work. I want Thierry back at Arsenal more than anything. I want him to work with Mikel. I want him to work with our strikers. I want him to be on the training pitch.
All right, so hold on. Who would you prefer then to work alongside Mikel? Santi Cazorla or Thierry Henry?
Oh, Apollo! You didn't.
Apollo, you've left a very big name out of that. These just put Mohamed Elneny.
Ooh. Oh man.
Mohamed Elneny or Jorginho if he retires at the end of the season.
I mean, as I said, man, I just want Thierry at Arsenal's training ground every day. I want him to coach every player about finishing. You can imagine Thierry teaching, like, working with Gabriel Jesus. Like, stop your stupidness, shoot the ball.
Yeah. Just like,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But saying that in French.
Yeah.
Oh
my God.
Yeah,
right, guys.
I want Thierry on the pitch. I don't want him in the back room. I want him on the pitch.
Yeah, I do as well because there's something there. He's tried management, but there's something there. There's something he's missing.
Yeah,
and I think that Mikel could give.
Dennis Bergkamp. That's a great shout, Dennis Bergkamp.
That's a great shout. Not to
replace Edu. No, I'm not having it.
That's a great shout.
Not to replace Edu. Again,
that's a great shout, Tony.
He performed a similar role at Ajax, did he not?
Yeah, he did. Yep.
Okay. I mean, I don't know about what he did or what he didn't, but I'll take a let's look at him and let's have a discussion kind of scenario.
Hold
Tony, that's why I said everything is on the table. Everything is on the table.
Hold on 1 second, guys. Not that I'm a conspiracy theorist or nothing, but wasn't Bergkamp at the recent game?
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
he was.
Yeah,
which was always just over 72 hours ago.
Yeah, he's still on the train traveling home because don't forget he can't fly.
Well, if you don't fly, you can't have the job. If you've got a couple of hours to close the deal, you can't drive to France.
Oh,
Man.
has he got over
Oh,
that? Has he got over that fear of flying yet? Because that's a
No, I don't
massive,
think so.
that's a massive thing, bro.
I know it is. I know. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
That's
look at
that
the
that
Man
that
United
that.
guy. He sacked Ten Hag on Monday, boarded the plane 2 hours later, and flew to Portugal to get their manager. Bergkamp ain't doing that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. That's madness. That's madness. Yeah, that's true. That will only hurt us, but still,
yeah,
like I
El
said,
Neni,
everything's
El
on the
Neni
table.
needs no part of behind the scenes politics. Get him into to work with players, get him in the youth setup, get him with the women's team. They just sacked their manager. Get him involved there. You know what I mean? There's countless places, there's countless opportunities at Arsenal where, Jack Wilshere just walked away to go to
Norwich.
Norwich.
Mm.
There's plenty of places. And he's the kind of player that I would have at Arsenal. I totally think, look, he's been a great servant for this club. And, I would have no qualms about having him as part of some youth setup or some female setup somewhere. But, yeah, we're talking about the big job, the big negotiator. And that has to be someone of very high stead,
Yeah,
who's able to, get in from the get-go and start working and doing magic straight away, because we're not far from that January transfer window.
yes, yeah,
Whoever walks in is pretty much starting to do negotiations from day one, because what you want is that new striker or new whoever to be at the club January 1st,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
why I suggested Flamini.
yeah. That's right.
You know what I personally want to see is someone that will just go and get the deal done.
Yeah.
I don't want all this
Yeah,
haggling over £3 million or 50p. Just go get the deal
exactly.
done. If someone wants 80 million, don't offer 60 million. Just go in
Yeah.
at 80 million, take it or leave it.
And
Yeah,
let's be
75
D
honest,
million and leave it.
whoever
D
walks in
says
that door,
Arteta controls the club. Edu was Arteta's boss. Yeah, Arteta worked for Edu.
yeah,
That
that's right.
that that's how it works, D. That's how the
I
hierarchy
think
works.
whoever walks in, if they come in and they do a deal and get us, what we need to cross the line this
Mm.
season, they'll be a hero for life.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what we should
I
do?
mean,
You know what we should do?
Edu's definitely getting his flowers, though. Yeah, Edu's definitely getting his flowers.
We should get everyone to submit a name and see who gets it right and see who gets it wrong.
Yeah. D, that's Richard Garlick, who you just the players' ins and out contracts and negotiations are all Richard Garlick. All Richard Garlick. Arteta doesn't touch that. Arteta doesn't touch that. So the hierarchy at the club at the moment, as I said, guys, is obviously Tim Lewis, Richard Garlick, and now we're waiting for to see who's going to join James King, or whether James King will take on the extension role. So that's where. Don't be surprised if tomorrow or the day after you hear them make an announcement with James King taking in that role, because honestly, I've seen them do this before with various different people at the club, Edu included. So I can just see them going that route. But like we said, everything is on the table. If I'm Josh Kroenke, everything is on the table.
So I've got a little statement here that I don't know if you've posted previously. I'll read it verbatim. It says, sources close to the situation claim that, to a degree, there has been a dilution of Edu's power behind the scenes at Arsenal. It is said that Tim Lewis has seen his influence grow, while Richard Garlick assumed more control when he was promoted this year.
And this is why the one thing that's bothered me, Tony and Gary, speaking to both of you, is a lot of our fans don't understand the hierarchy at the club. A lot of fans, I would say the majority of fans, I would say a minority understand the hierarchy. And even today, people say Stan Kroenke runs the club. I have no idea that Josh is the decision maker. He's the guy that says, yes, this happens, no, this doesn't. And then all he does is he tells Dad, this is what I'm doing. And Dad says, no problem, job done. You're doing a good job over there in London. and it's been that way since 2018. That's 6 years, and Tim Lewis is important. Me and Gary talked about it before you came on the stream, because he is the most trusted figure in the board, and that's because he's been working for Josh and Stan for KSC since 2007. That's when the stadium opened. Stan didn't even have majority sharehold at that point. That's how old Tim Lewis is working with this organization. So, you know, it's astonishing. It would not surprise me if there was that mix and shake up, because that's why we got rid of Vinay. Vinay, when Vinay replaced Raul Sanelli, Tim Lewis was like, you know what, we're not going to do this. Richard Garlick could do that role. So Richard Garlick essentially replaced Vinay as the operations and the negotiation chief negotiator, which was Dick Law. He had 2 jobs, and so Richard Garlick and Tim Lewis and Edu, those 3 report directly under Josh Kroenke, and one of them has gone, which is Edu. So it would not surprise me, you know, this guy James King coming in. He's been brought in to sort of be an understudy, but I think they're going to envelope him. I think that's going to be a 3-headed monster. We'll have to wait and see. I could be right. I could be wrong. Gary's thinking hard now.
I just think whatever it's going to be, I think they've got a plan in place. It would have been put in place the moment Edu uttered the words he's going to leave. Before the news broke, you know, they would have known 72 hours or whatever it was. You know, we're saying 72. For all we know, it could have been a week. But I think a plan would be put in place. But I say they've worked too hard to get to this point, and to let it all fall down by losing one key aspect, I just can't see the Kroenkes letting that happen, to be honest.
Yeah. 100% agree, guys. Okay, right. I think that's it from us tonight, guys. Really wanted to just be on in there for an hour to let you know our thoughts, also to pay tribute to Edu as well, which we've done today, and really talked about the present and then the future. And so that's really, I'd like to believe that we've covered all of that. So thank you guys for joining the chat and giving us your side and your thoughts and your views and opinions. Always love that, guys. That's the reason why we're here. So guys, enjoy the evening. Have a good one. And let's see how this plays out. And we'll see you at Inter Milan this week on Wednesday.
See you Wednesday.
All right, guys.
Okay, guys.